Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, Miss, can you see?
Yes, Dawood, you can go ahead and start with your introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome.
Okay. Hi, and a very good afternoon to everyone. Welcome all to this webinar on combating financial crime with emerging technologies. Nowadays, fraud had become a major issue, costing companies billions of dollars every year. In this webinar, our guest, Mr. Raymon, will be addressing how AI and other tools are used to prevent and detect fraud. Mr. Raymond is an advocate against economic crime and a certified fraud examiner and certified anti-money laundering specialist. He is also the founder and managing principal at Graymatter Forensic Advisory Syndrian Berhad, which is a solution-based training and advisory specializing in financial forensics, fraud risk management, and anti-money laundering compliance. Please also welcome Ms. Mira, a senior lecturer at APU and my lovely program leader for the postgraduate accounting and finance students. Ms. Mira will be moderating the session with me. As for myself, I am Daoud, a master's student in accounting with a specialization in forensic analysis. Before we start, please note that you may drop your questions in the comment section and our wonderful guest will do his level best to address them all. Without further waiting to you, Ms. Mira.
Thank you so much, Dawood, and welcome, Dawood and Raymond. Hi, and we're very excited today to share on this interesting area on financial crime, which is a very important area that we need to address, especially with emerging technologies coming in along the way and will help enhance the way we move forward with detection and prevention. So, Raymond, over to you. Take it away.
Hi, very good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Dawood. Thank you so much, Ms. Mira. Thank you, Asia Pacific University, for the invitation. It's a pleasure for me to be here today. Basically, the whole idea of today's program is to discuss the current state of financial crime and how emerging technologies would be here for us to combat this emerging financial crime per se, using those technologies. And of course, keeping in mind that this is not just a problem in Malaysia, it's a global issue. I have had the privilege of presenting papers back in Taiwan, in Berlin, right before the COVID-19 pandemic. And we understand that across the globe, we have similar issues, right? We have issues of corruption, we have issues of fraud, we have issues of cybercrime, money laundering, and whatnot. So the idea today here is, of course, I would provide a brief introduction on what financial crime is, what is the current happenings around the world, and of course, dwelge in a little into how we could mitigate risk of such thing taking place going forward, and how investigators are doing things to keep steps ahead of those criminals, right? So I believe without further ado, maybe we could have the slides to be posted up so that I could just kick off the session with a bit more structure, probably. Yeah. All right, so I believe everyone is able to see the slides that I've prepared here. The idea, like I said, was to give you a brief overview of what financial crime is, the current state, and of course, the emerging technologies to combat it, right? So moving forward, of course, Dawood has done a very good job in my introduction earlier. I wouldn't want to elaborate that further, but just to mention that myself, not only as a founder of a company that deals with consulting and training in the area of fraud risk management, I'm also the Secretary General for Transparency International Malaysia. We are advocates against corruption in Malaysia, and we continuously work with all stakeholders within the country to ensure that the proper policy reforms are done and both the private and public sector is prepared to combat corruption in Malaysia. Right, so again, feel free to ask me any questions moving along. Now let's delve right into the slides before we go further with other discussions. Okay, as you can see here, the first slide here is an overview, right? To give you an understanding of the current state of things that are going on now. As you can see on the left-hand corner, you see that consumer scams and corporate fraud. Why are they different? Very easily put. One is for individuals who are being scammed. Another, we're talking about how organizations are being scammed by their internal employees or external parties, or organizations themselves colluding to defraud their stakeholders, right? So the first, when we talk about consumer scams, we can see with the current happening of COVID-19, with everyone working from home since the beginning of 2020, huge rise in scams. Why? Because human beings are more gullible when they are left alone. When we are socially isolated, unable to communicate with one another, that's when we are more gullible to scams. And scammers know this, right? They themselves are desperate. They themselves want to go on and get their illegal gains, and we become more gullible. So it's an easy target, right? We have seen the rise of Macau scams, which I will talk a bit more about later. We have seen the rise of fake investment scams, charity related scams that are going on out there, advance fee fraud, and many others, right? So those are consumer scams that are going up. Corporate fraud, on the other hand, we're going to touch a bit on asset misappropriation, corruption, and financial statement fraud. Now, the idea here, like I said, it's talking about organizations. Either they're being defrauded by internal, external parties, or either they themselves are colluding to defraud their stakeholders. I mean, every time I mention that sentence, Enron comes to mind, right? But that's the basic idea of corporate fraud. And we'll talk a bit more about it later and what are the developments at the moment in Malaysia when it comes to that. The other part would be cybercrime. We have to touch on cybercrime, right? You talk about emerging technologies. You talk about everyone being glued to their screens at the moment, trusting what they see on their screens, being gullible to those others, impersonating as someone else, conducting social phishing schemes, social engineering methods, data breaches has been on the rise with organizations. We are seeing the rise of ransomware throughout the pandemic due to the problem that when the pandemic hit, companies were not prepared for everyone to work from home. And when that happened, we know that we opened up doors for cyber criminals to launch their attacks, for hackers to have a jolly good time, right? So basically have the back doors to come in, to conduct social engineering skills, to get employees to provide sensitive information for them to gain access towards these servers. And hence we had ransomware, hence we had the breach of data, gathering of data, we had the marketplace for illegal activity, the dark web growing in its use, and of course, now the concern about IoT or Internet of Things, when we have a number of different devices being integrated under a singular network. Now that is going to be a very challenging step forward with IoT. We have to ensure that security is in place because cyber criminals are just waiting for more companies to put this on board. Now, that's on cybercrime. Moving forward, of course, in Malaysia, we constantly hear these words. We are not proud of it, but we constantly hear the words of money laundering, terrorism financing, right? And the idea, of course, is the washing of illegal gains, right? So, of course, when scammers commit to their scams, they get money, right? They get a certain amount of financial gains. Corporate fraud, you get financial gains. When it comes to cybercrime, of course, the objective is to materialize it or basically create financial gains out of what has been done. So these monies need to be washed. They are, of course, the steps of placement, layering, integration. That's money laundering, right? How do we now convert illegal gains to make it look as though it came from legal sources, right? That's money laundering, simple steps. In Malaysia, since the 1MDB fiasco took place, we know that AMLA has been a big thing. AMLA has been the AMLA PUA 2001, our Money Laundering Act in Malaysia, has been a talk of everyone, and to ensure, and even law enforcement is continuously looking at this act when they are going after offenders of serious crime, right? So that's money laundering. Of course, we still have financing of terrorism. May follow similar steps of placement, layering, integration, but the idea here would not be having it circular back to the pockets of the criminals. The idea would be it being linear. So meaning that either from legal or illegal gains, it is being layered and then moved towards terrorist organizations for conducting their activities. The activities now are not only physical terrorism, cyber terrorism as well, and many others, right? Lastly, I think I highlighted there in blue is something that's being talked by the FATF in the meetings that have been going on. It's proliferation financing, or the financing of weapons of mass destruction by state organizations, right? Or states, basically. Now, this is one of the concerns by the FATF, and they have put in recommendations as well, which countries now have to follow as part of their compliance, which includes money laundering, terrorism financing, and now also proliferation financing as well, right? So that's basically a snapshot of where we are. I believe I've done, I hope I've done some justice to giving it a smooth flow of how things are moving at the moment. And now we can go into the concerns. Now, if you look at consumer fraud, like I mentioned just now, one of which is advance fee fraud. Advance fee fraud has been around for ages. And what we mean by this is basically you're getting an email telling you that, look, there is this amount of jewelry stuck at customs. If you can make a certain advance fee, I could release them to you. And of course, those jewelry that can be released are worth millions. And I'm only asking you for what? A couple of thousand, for example. So why not? Right? So that's one of the means of advance fee. We even have love scams, for example, right? Love scams could be a means towards advance fee. And love scams is very famous in Malaysia. Many lonely people are around in Malaysia, and they fall for those love scams. And it's been on the rise as people were isolated during the COVID-19 pandemic. High yield investment scams. Of course, people are looking towards good investments, towards getting very high financial gains, even more than those that are being provided by financial institutions. Now, may have many cases in Malaysia at the moment. High-ranking, very well-known individuals as well has been involved in such high-yield investment scams. Because in Malaysia, years back, we already had something known as Scheme Cepat Kaya. And we say Scheme Cepat Kaya, we're talking about get-rich-quick schemes. And of course, like the capital market, the scammers would prey on hope and greed, right? They target hope and greed to look at, these are the two basic instincts or elements that human beings work on, and of course prey on that. The other one would be ID theft. ID theft had been on rise, and most of the time ID theft, when people find out they are victims of ID theft, where loans has been taken out or either contractual agreements have been gone into without them knowing, it's always too late, right? Of course, a police report has to be made, and sometimes you might be indebted, already forced into bankruptcy and whatnot. So it's very important to ensure that you keep your statements well in check and ensure that no one steals your identity to commit such acts. Counterfeit products, because as you know, during the COVID-19 pandemic, shopping was not physical anymore, right? Most of us do online shopping, or almost all of us. Even now, those convenience stores are going to online. But this also promotes counterfeit products. As we know, even in China, before when they started the online sales, online business, there were a lot of issues with counterfeit products. We have the same issues as well. Now, to ensure that we know what kind of products we're getting, making sure reviews are being made, and we become more responsible buyers at the end of the day, right? Next are WFH schemes. These are work from home schemes. When I say work from home schemes, what I mean is basically, even before the pandemic, we had a lot of advertisements online where you can work from home, data entry, make a bit of money every month, or even duping you into becoming Mule accounts, right? Setting up fake bank accounts, letting it being used by criminals and whatnot. Those are work from home schemes. And another thing is, one of red flags for work from home schemes, you don't need to make an advance fee to get a job, right? I doubt those kind of jobs exist. All right. So most of the time when they provide work from home schemes, they will ask you for a fee to attain that particular job. Right? That's another red flag that you can look into. The others was to make sure that these companies are registered with Bank Negara or with any other institution that they're regulated with, and to ensure that those jobs are legit before you actually commit to such jobs. And lastly, why did I highlight that in red? Is because it has been highlighted in the FATF report as well. Not only in 2020, the one I put here, even in 2021, Macau scams in Malaysia as well has been steeply on the rise. Now, what is Macau scam? Macau scam basically, like I said just now, it feeds on basic human instinct. So the earlier it focused on hope and greed. Now we are focused on fear. Right? Another basic human instinct. Why I say fear? Because someone calls up a victim, impersonates as a law enforcement officer or someone of authority, tells them that, look, you're under investigation now, or you need to transfer all your funds towards another account because we're going to freeze your account. You won't be able to use it for a couple of months, couple of years. So please do so. And victims get duped into doing so. We have gone far-fetched to even see bankers get duped into such scams as well, even though they should be the ones that are well informed of such financial scams or schemes that are taking place out there. So anyone is gullible, and Macau scam is on the rise, and what they prey is on fear. We have even had cases where perpetrators call up victims and say, your kid has been kidnapped. You need to make a ransom payment, and if you don't do so, something would happen. Right? So those are, again, Macau scams. When we say Macau scams, it's impersonation of someone else of authority, or either someone else like, kidnapper or whatever not, and they are preying on fear into providing whatever financial means that they want, whatever monies that they require. And most of the time, these monies are deposited into something known as Mule accounts. They are not the beneficial owner of they are beneficial owner of the accounts, but basically their names don't appear on those accounts. So when police wants to investigate, they can't find out who they are anyway. Okay. So impersonation of officials, you can see them. Macau scam, counterfeiting, including essential goods, fundraising of false charities. This was another problem during the COVID-19 pandemic because we understood that NGOs, other charities were in deep trouble due to the problem that they couldn't go out, they could not do their activities, they could not get funds to continue operations. Fraudulent investment scams mentioned just now. Recent statistics is again for your own viewing. In Malaysia, we had 2.23 billion in losses to cyber fraud. This was reported back again, I think in 2 years or last year, probably, right? So again, we have many other cases coming about and cybercrime is not stopping. Part of cybercrime is, of course, consumer scams as well. Okay. Sorry.
Raymond, can I just intercept?
Yeah.
It's really interesting what you've been sharing so far, and I just have a thought for you to just think about here. You mentioned Enron earlier. That was like back in 2002, early 2000, and we are in 2022 today, and based on statistics and based on some of the areas which have been shared by ACFE reports, etc. There's been a huge rise in terms of fraud and in these areas that you're about to share here as well. I can see corruption, asset misappropriation. So I would like to hear more about how have we evolved during this time. I mean, are we learning from these lessons in the past, or are we just looking past them and moving forward with this increase? And I'd like to see how the emerging technologies are actually coming in to the picture, and whether
Hi, test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3. Test.
I think we are experiencing some issues with the internet.
Okay, sure. We are both still online, is it, Daud?
Yes, sir, we're still online.
Okay, let's just give it a minute.
They have highlighted earlier that we are experiencing internet issues at APA.
Okay.
That's fine.
No worries.
Sorry for that. Maybe you can just carry on.
Yes, I will proceed first. No problem. Okay. So guys, apologies for that short disruption in technical issue that usually takes place when it comes to online sessions. So no worries. Now, moving forward, when it comes to corruption, when it comes to organizations or legal persons, we call it in law, right? So I think Ms. Mira also was mentioning earlier about Enron and whatnot. So again, there are 3 basic categories that have been highlighted by the ACFE. Time and time again, we have biannual reports that's been released. We have corruption, asset misappropriation, financial statement fraud that takes place, right? So basically, when we talk about corruption per se, the idea of corruption comes from, the idea of corruption is abuse of power. Those on top, middle management, or even frontliners are seen to be involved in the acts of corruption, right? This could be coming from conflict of interest, either those on top abusing their power out of nepotism, hiring those that are close to their family members, or either giving out projects to cronies, or giving out, not going through a proper tender process in awarding certain projects. That could be conflict of interest. Bribery, on the other hand, as we know, receiving or giving a certain gratification, right? Something of value to another person in order to get a decision in your favor, right? So that's a form of bribery, which could happen from frontliners, mid-level management, and senior management. We have seen cases time and time again. To be honest with you, we never thought too much about this happening in the financial sector. I've been involved in quite a number of such engagements, and we know it's taking place. You see in the news, we have frontliners getting charged for taking kickbacks for personal loans, for different providing different loans and whatnot. We have bank presidents, right? And former bank president which was charged with over 800 million in bribery for a certain non-existent, a certain loan for a non-existent project. Imagine that, right? This is something that you can't even imagine, but it takes place. So I'm saying that from the top till mid-level management till frontliners could be involved in bribery, corruption. Illegal gratuity is another one, right? When we say illegal gratuity, we're talking about getting something of value after you've given someone something they want, right? This is also wrong, right? This is wrong. This is false under wrongful gift taking, in a sense that it can be presumed as gratification later. Economic extortion or blackmail, right? Blackmailing someone into providing them what they want would also be a form of corruption. Next would be asset misappropriation. Simply said, this is theft and misuse of company assets. Simple as that. It could be cash, it could be inventory or any other assets of the company. Money's coming in, money's going out, right? If monies are skimmed or stolen, when you are the director of the company, if you tend to put your hand into the cookie jar or put your hand into the director's account, into the company's account and remove money, that would be a form of embezzlement, which falls under this, right? You also have monies coming in that's being skimmed by those that are collecting them. When I say skimmed, money is put in the pocket, not reported in the accounts or not booked in the accounts. Very hard to detect, right? Or you have even monies going out, fraudulent disbursements, setting up of shell companies, making it look like these shell companies has provided services for your organization and then approving fees towards those shell companies, which is owned by you, mind this, right? It's owned by the criminal itself. So again, these are many different schemes, monies where money goes out, come in and go out, right? And how it is perpetrated. We also have inventory or other assets. When we look at that, we can say misuse of fixed assets of the company or misuse of anything within the company. Your company printers, your company equipment and whatever not, misuse for your own personal business. Lastly, if you look under the third category, under the fraud tree, is financial statement fraud. This is very worrying. Why? When I go to the next slide, I show you why financial statement fraud is very worrying, right? The thing is this. Financial statement fraud does not happen that often. But when it does, a lot of stakeholders are affected and millions go into losses, right? We're talking about manipulation of financial numbers or the accounts, balance sheet, income statements, cash flow statements of a company, which is supposed to reflect the health of the company. When you manipulate numbers there or edit numbers there, you are basically defrauding all stakeholders, right? Those that want to decide to invest, to pull out, or either your staff that has, share options, or even bankers providing loans. These are things that if it's done, the losses are unimaginable. So again, we have corruption, asset misappropriation, and different forms of financial statement fraud, where the basic paradigm, of course, most companies would want to low or inflate their assets, inflate their revenue, decrease their liabilities, and expenses, right? Of course, if you want to avoid tax, it'd be inverse. All right, so those are the three different categories. Moving along, we see the reality of what's happening now. This is from the ACFE report, but why I'm highlighting this is because I have to show you what is the most, I would not say most common scheme at the moment. As you can see here, I want you to focus on the middle chart, which shows you that when it comes to asset misappropriation, it is very frequent, but the value might be low, right? Very frequent, because it can happen from the lowest to the highest rank, right? We're talking about a simple theft of cash, false refunds, false disbursements, reimbursements, claims that are being made which are not right, misuse of assets and whatnot. Corruption, always in the middle, but financial statement fraud, low in frequency, high in value when it happens, right? Now, why I've highlighted corruption there is because you can see on the right, you can see that corruption is the most prevalent scheme taking place in Asia Pacific. Not only Asia Pacific, Malaysia has fallen off the ranking, the global ranking for the CPI or Corruption Perception Index for 2 years running, right? We have fallen quite low at the moment. If I have time, I'll show you where we are, but yeah, it's scary where we are moving towards, but hopefully we are able to get the reforms in and have the proper governance measures put in place in both the public and private sector. Yep. Sorry, Miss Mira, I think we were cut off earlier. Any questions?
Yes, I did. I had a connection issue. Thank you so much for your patience, Raymond, and
No
everyone.
worries, yeah.
audience. Just to look at the emerging technologies itself. So I was asking about Enron and how we have actually moved, 2002 and we're in 2022, all right? So like, we have really come along, and we're just seeing an increase in terms of numbers of cases and, situations. And so are we looking at a lack of, you just mentioned governance, and, I just picked that up. And, governance is there, rules are there. We're talking about acts which have been launched and, brought forward, and, you have spoken about a few of them as well. So, is there a lack of awareness or, governance? What's the major factor now that's actually causing us issues?
Okay, two things. Number one would be, I would say that we're always two steps behind, right? Of course, when criminals come in, they are not working within a framework that we do. Simple as that, right? They do whatever they want, try to modify things as new technologies come in, take advantage of it. Us as fraud examiners, we are two steps behind. But then again, we need to be fast to react instead of being this way, right? If we talk about during the time of Enron, of course, when Enron took place, WorldCom took place during almost the same time. We had the SOX, they were put in place, right? Sarbanes-Oxley Act was put in place. The laws there also come in a form of a reactive measure after certain corporate downfalls, after certain fraudulent acts have been taken place. We had many other cases after that. We still have cases in the US as well, even though many reforms have been made. I think in Malaysia, especially, we need to take advantage of that in the sense of putting them as examples and being more proactive, right? If you're going to be reactive here as well, we're going to wait. We were very lucky to have the corporate liability provision or Section 17 Capital A of the MACC Act passed on and enforced in 2020. Why did the act come about? Simply because we did not look at the private sector. We often went after the public sector for receiving bribes, but we did not talk about the private sector giving out these bribes. And how do we now criminalize not only the person giving in the private sector, but the organization as well? So it comes, we are still very reactive. We need to be proactive. And the problem with Malaysia that we see at the moment, they don't invest in prevention. They invest more in being responsive to what's happening, more reactive, right? So we need to change that mindset. And of course, with Section 17 Capital A, corruption-related issues are being talked about in the private sector, and they are being a bit more proactive compared to before enforcement due to the act that is put in place. So I see changes are being made when it comes to corruption. Others, of course, we have many cases, even financial statement fraud, we have certain cases pending. We have other fraud cases taking place as well. It will come by. Like I mentioned, even AMLA was not talked about before. When 1MDB came about, now you see, everything is being charged under AMLA, right? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that, Raymond. You can go ahead.
Sure. Thank you. Okay,
so we can have the slides back on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So that is the area of consumer scams and fraud. Now, again, traditional fraud, not too much different from cybercrime in a sense where motivations are there for financial gain. They are defrauding those victims that they prey on. And of course, when we talk about digital economy or the cyberspace, crime taking over on in cyberspace, digital economy, we are way past Industry 4.0, right? We are moving towards, I don't know what's next. But the idea is this. We have went towards digitalization in 3.0. Now in 4.0, we have a huge amount of data, right? Big data is there. We have AI technology that can be used. Data analytics can be done because of the enormous amount of data that we have. We have AI technology. We have the blockchain that has come to place. When we say blockchain, cryptocurrency becomes a thing, right? And blockchain not only for cryptocurrency, it can be used for different areas of business as well, in different financial sectors or different industries as well, right? Again, blockchain provides transparency, right? And with transparency, we could get more cases coming to light. But then again, let's not talk too much about that. Besides blockchain, besides AI, there's many other different areas coming about. The dark web is being continuously used even in this era. We have IoT is one of my basic concerns actually. Internet of Things. How secure will Internet of Things be when more companies or more industries adopt them? Do we think of cybersecurity in a reactive measure, or do we think proactively of how we can secure all these devices which are going to be connected under the network later? Now, these are the basic or traditional cyber threats, right? You're not going to run away from this. I guess you guys in school so would have learned this. I mean, if I'm not too old, that's why. So when you say malware is obvious there, right? I mean, virus, worms, Trojan horses, they never go away. Simple as that. But it will be modified, right? Like how the COVID variants are being modified now and then, and we have new variants coming about and taking probably the fourth shot later. Same thing. Malware, viruses will be continuously improving. Worms, Trojan horses, phishing schemes are going to be more advanced. Fake official emails, fake calls, man-in-the-middle attacks, the favorite of hackers, which insert themselves between your computer and the server to get information being transferred. DDoS attacks. Malaysia has been attacked by DDoS countless times in order to take down servers, slow them down, put people out of business, as terrorist attacks on government-related servers. Cross-site scripting, inject malicious code into websites, target visitors when you visit websites which you're not supposed to, and certain malicious malware gets downloaded to your PC and whatnot. SQL injection attacks corrupts data to make server divulge data. This is when hackers are in computing servers and they want to attain data, right, from those servers. So they launch an SQL injection attack. Now, changes we see going forward, of course, this is not new. You guys, students, definitely know the dark web. Crime as a service is on the dark web. When we say crime as a service, the profile of cyber criminals has changed. You don't need to be cyber savvy to be a cyber criminal, mind you. You can go online, get assistance from a consultant who will work with you to launch cyber attacks. Not a good thing, yeah? But that's what's happening on the dark web. Let me give you an example. Just say a disgruntled employee leaves the company, right? Leaves the company and then he goes on the dark web and says, look, I have my user ID, login, and password, and I know my IT is very slow and they won't delete my profile after in 1 or 2 days. They'll take longer. Why don't we launch a ransomware attack? When the company pays, we share. Simple. Crime as a service done, right? Next will be ransomware. We saw the rise of ransomware. Again, ransomware because it's very easily converted to cash, right? So you can just launch ransomware, encrypt all data of that particular victim's organization, and the only way for you to decrypt is to get a key from the criminals and a payment must be made to them. Now, of course, with cryptocurrency, most of the time, cryptocurrency is being used for this. Or if it's transfer of bank payments, then to Mule accounts. Social engineering will continue to rise. Abuse of the deep fake we saw on Facebook when it was first launched. It's still happening with people working from home. Use of botnets will not stop, in a sense where we have multiple infected computers acting together in order to launch attacks. Data breach. Cryptojacking, as crypto prices are just always on a high nowadays. Let's see whether it falls again or not. Abuse of Internet of Things. Heightened concern in cyberspace. This is my personal views. I see the dark web being a very dangerous spot, and it's very easily accessible, and we see a lot of students on it at the moment. Very scary. If you understand, the dark web is one part of the internet, or it can be accessed to certain browsers where you can stay anonymous. That's the whole idea. And when you have a playground to stay anonymous, they obviously have a lot of criminal activity there. Abuse of IoT, we're talking about legacy systems being parked under a singular network with other sensitive equipment, right? Sensitive equipment might hold personally identifiable information. And when you have legacy systems which are not secured, being parked under the same network, you have trouble. You have backdoors, you have vulnerabilities, and these are targets of criminals, right? So cybersecurity would be a concern as well. Working from home, of course, tilted towards criminals, and we are still looking at ways to have better precautions being taken. Report from the COVID-19 impact, May 2020, we see impersonation of officials, Macau scam, counterfeiting, this has been mentioned earlier, cyber criminality, email, SMS phishing schemes. Business email compromise here means that business emails, when you have business emails and you go and work and whatnot, those are being compromised. Hackers are using your email account in order to send emails out. Trust me, this might sound very, very minute to you, the effects of this, but it has devastating effects on certain organizations. We have personally been involved in cases where CFO of companies, their email accounts have been hacked, emails being sent to vendors to divert payments to different bank accounts. And this were happening until the vendors found it suspicious, called up the organization and asked, hey, why is this happening? Then they investigated, right? So it is going around, and ransomware attacks as well. Okay, so let me just go towards money laundering now, right? So we have cybercrime. We talk about cybercrime. We talk about fraud, cybercrime. Very simply move through. Now, cyber laundering is a term that came about a couple of years back. Now, the idea here is we have a lot of online transfers being done. Most of us are now mobile with banking. Transfers are being made very fast, ranging from wire transfers, cash deposits, withdrawals. Traditional money laundering methods, which rely on banking system, is still there. We won't say it's not there. The cyber and also the traditional methods. Now, I would like to highlight one particular case, right? So we may not have time for the video, so I'll just highlight it on what took place, and then just move forward. Now, if you guys are interested, please look up the Bangladesh cyber heist back in 2016. This would be a very classic case study for you to use even as we go forward. Why? Because in 2016, the Bangladesh Central Bank was hacked. Why was it hacked? It was reported that a staff had opened up an email, attachment was open, malware was being distributed, malware had been downloaded, and then they took the malware, the hackers that put in the malware had took over the SWIFT system. Now, the SWIFT system is basically a communication method between bank to bank to make transfers. It's a formal system across the world. As you know now, Russia has been sanctioned by the SWIFT, but the same idea across the world. So messages were sent to the New York Federal Reserve, which holds Bangladesh Central Bank's monies, to transfer funds towards banks in Sri Lanka and Philippines, without staff in Bangladeshi Central Bank knowing. How did that happen? Simply, the printer was broken because they were using very manual ways of doing SWIFT communication. Its printers was broken. It was done very, very smartly because it was done on Friday. Friday was half day in Bangladesh because it's a Muslim country. So we have prayers on Friday, right? So it was done on a Friday. Transfers were made from New York Feds on a Friday. When they contacted New York Feds to cancel the payments on Saturday, they were not meant because they're not working on weekends. When the transfers were made, especially in the Philippines, Monday was a public holiday in the Philippines. So you could not even stop the transfers. And then there were people in the Philippines branch who colluded with the hackers to basically withdraw funds and send those physical funds to different places, even make transfers to certain casinos and certain different companies as well. So about 1 billion was tried to be transferred, about 81 million only went through. There were some control measures that were there that the hackers could not go through, could not bypass, But again, 81 million still missing. And we only have certain bankers in the branch in Philippines that were apprehended. The hackers are still unknown, right? So again, when I talked about the case just now, I highlighted simply cybercrime and its relation to money laundering. The whole process was there. That's why it's a classic case study, which I want most of you who are interested in the field to go through and understand further, right? Now, when we talk about money laundering, okay, I don't have much time, but I'll just tell you a bit of what is money laundering and why we talk about both ML and TF. We have placement, layering, integration. When it comes to terrorist financing, similar process, but different objective. Simple as that, right? Money laundering is money to be clean and moving back to the pockets of the criminals. Terrorism financing, money is to be layered, obscured, and moved towards the wrong entities. When we look at ML, it's a circular process, like I said. When it comes to terrorist financing, it's a more linear process, one-way street, right? This is the regime in Malaysia. In Malaysia, we have reporting institutions, which are banks, the capital market, and also designated non-financial business and professions, which are accountants, auditors, lawyers, which need to report on any suspicious transactions in order to stop the act of money laundering, in order to not be a conduit for criminals to commit to money laundering. Financial Intelligence Unit is parked under our central bank. They are the ones who receive those suspicious transaction report and basically analyze them and disseminate them towards law enforcement agencies to look into the predicate offense, right? So basically, money laundering takes place. Now the law enforcement needs to look into how was that money laundering? Where did he get his money from? Was it tax fraud? Was it human trafficking? Was it corruption? What was it? Then you come the role, like I said, the investigation by law enforcement agencies. Lastly, prosecution by the AG, right? The Attorney General Chambers.
Just a thought on that, Mr. Raymond.
Yes.
Sorry. So we have laws and regulations in place everywhere on around the world, but money laundering still happening by different means, like cryptocurrency. What are the measures, what sort of measures have been taken by governments or regulators on that?
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Very good question. When we talk about cryptocurrency, crypto exchanges must be regulated. When you are regulated as a crypto exchanger, you are required to follow compliance laws, compliance regulation. When we say compliance regulation, okay, let's talk about crypto lah. Two things that needs to be done in order to stop money laundering in crypto. Number one is KYC. Number two is Number one is KYC. Number two is tracing or tracking where the money is going, right? So money flow. KYC means I need to know who you are when you open up your e-wallet, when you open up your wallet, right? I need your details. I need to know who you are, why you're opening up your wallet, what's your source of funds. Simple as that, KYC. Then when I can tie the number of your wallet ID to your name, when there are transactions made across the board, because blockchain is transparent, right? We can see it. And there are software out there, like Chainalysis and whatnot, which can actually track where the money goes. So the simple thing is this: I need to tie the name to the ID number, to the wallet. Once I tie the name to wallet, I then can trace where the monies are being transferred to. But the important thing to do is, number one, the KYC part. The challenge we are facing with crypto is the KYC part. Can I now tie the name to the wallet? Can I make sure that all those exchanges are regulated? Countries have different laws, right? And when it comes to crypto, it's across the board. So I believe a certain consensus won't come by between all these regulators. And when it's properly regulated, KYC can be done, transparency is there, it'd be better for investigators to investigate that. Right? I hope I answered the question, Dawood. Okay. All right. So any other question? Or
Now you may proceed.
all right, thank you. Okay, sure. Challenges to COVID-19. Again, malicious cybercrimes on the rise, changes in banking transaction. We see a lot of online transactions, and this has brought in something known as eKYC, electronic know your customer. Now, most of the time, to open a bank account, you must go and sit face to face in front of someone in the bank. They need to see you. They need to ask you questions. Only then can open account, right? Now it can be done online. Our central bank has also released guidelines on how this can be done, what's required. We have seen e-wallets opening up. We have seen crypto being purchased and whatnot, but the only way to do so is when you provide, your IC with your photo and things like that, eKYC. Fundraising, fake charities, of course, on rise, counterfeiting products. And one area that I actually wanted to touch on today is the rise of Mule account. And reason being because most of the audience, I believe today, are students. And students are being continuously targeted to be one of those Mule accounts. Right? Don't mind me. I have done presentations before. I have had students come to me and tell me how they were involved indirectly, or either they were involved because they were duped into being involved. So let me just explain what is this and why you should make sure that you avoid being part of this. First one, okay, when you talk about Mule account, fraudsters contact customers via emails, chat rooms. Again, we even have people, students in universities promoting this, right? Fraudsters then, what they will do is simple as this. Let me give you a scenario. In university, just say, you can have a person telling you that you can now work with this particular company. All you need to do is this. You need to follow their representative from bank to bank, open up bank accounts, and then surrender the access to them. Every time a money transfer is made to that account, you get a cut. Simple as that. Or either, when a lot of foreign students are in a university, right, from whichever country you are, when you leave the country, you don't inform the bank. You sell your debit card. When you sell your debit card, you're already committing an offense. And that offense, syndicate will use your debit card in order to make transfers to your account and out, and later just go to ATM machines and withdraw with your identity. That means you are part of being a Mule account. You either go and open up accounts you're not going to use, or either you sell your debit cards, which can be accessed to your ATM accounts. Now, again, a lot of students are getting involved in this. And because they are seeing monies coming in, like when you sell debit cards, you get a certain lump sum, they want that, or either you can get certain cuts when monies are being transferred to your account and you transfer it back somewhere else. These things must be avoided. It is an offense in Malaysia or in most countries in the world, right? So you can see here, Money Mules then directs money transfers to certain other accounts. If found, they will be charged. Now here in Malaysia, many cases, I'm highlighting only 3 articles, trust me, it's still on the rise. 10 members of Mule account syndicates were arrested, raids for Bukit Aman, you can see. Kuala Lumpur, Selangor from November 5th to 10. Use bank accounts, low-income individuals, illegal activities for investment fraud. Again, from online gambling, from scams, all these syndicates will find different students, different people who are desperate, get them to open up bank accounts and get them to be mules. 80,000 Mule accounts used for online fraud. This is only the ones discovered. Trust me, there's much, much more, right? These are the ones where they sell their sell their debit cards, either give out, open up bank accounts they're not going to use and let money is being transferred in and out and things like that. A lot of times, even alongs, Malaysia, we call it along, or illegal money lenders, when they lend out money and they can't get their money back because the person cannot pay back, they take their debit cards. These debit cards are also used. And these victims or these people that had loaned money from them become Mule accounts without them knowing, right? Young people looking for work during pandemic targeted by Mule money account scams, right? A lot of this has been taking place. Again, please look at these reports, look at these articles, understand you should not get into anything close to this. You will be blacklisted across central banks, and you wouldn't want that being very young. This is a portal actually set up by our Malaysian police. You can actually check accounts, put your account number there, and check whether your account has been reported by anyone else being used as a Mule account, right? It's good for you to check. How it works is the more checks being made, the more your account number would be high risk. So you can see whether your account is high risk or not, or it could be part of a Mule account investigation without you knowing, right? So you can put your bank account number there and just check. eKYC is something that you got to look forward, going forward. We have digital banking coming in place. We have many other means of working online. And eKYC is one of it, already being implemented, and fraudsters will find a way to get through this as well, right? There'll be many cases coming about. Now, before I end, it's just a short description of where I see things going. Two main concerns. I think Dawood has brought up cryptocurrency. Very simply put, cryptocurrency, the NFTs are a fabulous place. I won't say only for, it is amazing how NFTs work. It's not being regulated. It's not being controlled in any way yet. Prices are being set by whoever that's offering the best price. So let's see how it moves forward. But these are areas of concern that you guys are going to look into going forward, right? You've got the metaverse coming about. When metaverse comes about, if it does come about, and in NFTs will be a big thing. It will grow. You have cryptocurrency being used largely. You have instability between different currencies in the world due to the war and whatever not, crypto will be looked into, right? So again, besides cryptocurrency, we also have trade-based money laundering. You have across the board, you have different countries which do business with one another, invoices being inflated, different transfer pricing being manipulated, and these all can be part of a money laundering money laundering scheme by syndicates, and it will be area of concern, and cross-jurisdictional legislation will be a hurdle to go forward when it comes to investigators. With that, I would like to say thank you, and we will take questions. Yep.
Yes, Raymond, that's excellent. And talking about NFTs, right? We just like as we speak right now, there's an NFT discussion going on here on Nasi Lemak. There's a pitching session going on. So it's really interesting that moving forward and how non-fungible tokens can actually be a way forward. In saving this thing. So Raymond, I just have a couple of questions. From the chat box is just flooding in with comments and questions, so it's really good to see some good questions coming in. So can I just go with the first one? The first one is, how does the Malaysian government help recuperate the fraud victims from scams? Okay, so you probably can use some examples.
Recovery is always at a low. Trust me, if a person has been scammed, it's very, very tough to recover. Now, recuperation in a mental state can be done. We can send people for counseling or whatnot. Again, it's very devastating because recovery is often very low. If they are able to conduct investigation, get funds, it will take years for you to, I'm talking about criminal cases in the sense of scams that are being done. You can see police conducting investigations. But when police conduct investigations also, the rate of recovery is very low. So you talk about financial recovery, unless It is money is being stolen from a regulated industry like the banks. Money is being stolen for certain accounts, and you've been duped, ID theft, or either you've been part of certain syndicate without you knowing. You can find legal remedies. But if you've been duped outside for a consumer scam, that you provided money to a so-called lover that you had for love scams and whatever not, or advance fee fraud, cross-jurisdictional, it's most of the time cross-jurisdictional. Very little police can do besides taking your statement. So recovery is very low.
Thank you, Raymond. Next up, I have a question on books. Actually, do you have any, or can you recommend some laws and also books which can help to protect the victims, okay, or enhance our knowledge about this issue?
Books. I don't think books you can look at case studies. There are books that provide case studies, and we have very limited resources. Like, I can't really highlight one specific one now, but we have very little resources in this area. Hence why you guys coming out of university should continue to do research in this area, right? Do your masters in this area, do your PhD in this area, write more. For me, I try my best. If you can Google my name, I try my best to write in papers. I write in magazines and whatever not, to create awareness. The idea is to create awareness. We need to understand these things are going on. And awareness on financial crime will not just be one time, because the schemes will keep evolving. So you got to continuously write, continuously talk about what's happening, not only in Malaysia, also across the board, right? So it's good to continuously create that awareness, do your get information, do your research. And there's a number of books that are there, but I can't really highlight one of which now. But very less. You need more research to be done in this area.
Excellent.
So,
I think
add.
Daud, please.
Sorry,
please,
Daud, yeah.
Go ahead.
Just Mr. Raymond now mentioned awareness as a tool to combat financial crime.
Mm-hmm.
What are the methods can be used, like in awareness talks, webinars? What methods can be used? Also by banks, how can they raise awareness?
All of the above, I guess. But just want to give you an example. If you look at corruption, right? We have a group known as Rasuah Busters in Malaysia, if you realize, in the media, but more Malay-centric because the language that's being used, right? So, but you can check Rasuah Busters. They actually bring out different means of communicating the anti-corruption message to the public, general public. The do's and don'ts, why is it bad? And they've actually done it in many different languages, which are very famous. I mean, they're the main languages in Malaysia. And they've done videos, they have done talks, road shows. We at TI, like me, I also represent Transparency International, right? I have done a number of talks. We have also developed ebooks for the SMEs to look into how to prevent corruption, or even for their staff to look at the do's and don'ts if it comes to corruption. We have also come up with a guideline, checklist for companies to implement preventive measures in those organizations. So there's many ways that we can help. The best way, of course, it's you to cater or to customize your message according to your target audience. You talk about those in university, what would be interesting to them, right? You talk about those working adults, what would be interesting to them? Especially you talk to board directors. Now, very easy. I can tell you the law is there for corruption. You don't want to listen. You don't want to allocate funds. You don't want to talk about resources. You'll get into trouble. You'll be sent to jail. Simple as that. So understand who your target audience is, and there's many ways of doing this. Yeah.
Excellent, Raymond. Raymond, can I also check with you? There's a question on careers, yeah? What type of careers or what careers are available in the white-collar crime prevention or investigative field? This is for students to gauge, career demand out there.
Yeah. Okay. Very simply put, most of the time, those that approach our organization for training and those who are in the field that is practicing what we preach is compliance, risk management, and audit. These are the three basic functions in organizations which are looking into these matters. We have also the board, senior management that's now very concerned about all this. For you to choose which path you want to go, right? You can go into forensic accounting. You can go into digital forensics. You can go into fraud management or risk management and focus into fraud or corruption. There's many ways of going into this. You can even become a specialist in AMLA or money laundering. So it totally depends where you want to go. But you cannot decide that, I believe, during your degree itself, your bachelor's itself. It's when you go to your master's, that's when you can get a better picture. Then you can do certifications out there. To be honest with you, my bachelor's was in psychology, right? I did psychology. My master's was in economic crime. Right after that, I did my CFE, Certified Fraud Examiner. After that, I did my CAMS, Certified Anti-Money Laundering Specialist. Then now my PhD. So it's when you've done your degree, then start thinking what your specialization will be. That will be your master's. When you specialize your master's, do certifications, right? That will be my way of looking into it. And of course, getting experience from those organizations during your study will also be better. Yeah.
Excellent, Raymond. Next one. Is there any way to prevent, from being scammed, or any application to block or protect ourselves from scamming?
Simply put, if you talk about scamming, let's talk about online scams. Online scams, how to protect yourself. Don't simply download apps without reading the reviews. Simple red flag, kan? Don't download any. You know what the problem was in the working sector, especially, yeah? Everyone at home, they wanted to do things faster. So they downloaded apps to make work process faster without reading reviews. Now, most of these free gifts or these apps comes with free gifts. It comes with malware, right? And then you don't read other people's reviews. You don't understand the app. You just download because you think can make your job faster. Especially you guys, even students, you want to do your assignment faster. There's many different apps out there. Don't simply download them, right? You'll be a gateway for malware to be distributed. Also, always understand the red flags. If you have adware, things popping up in your computer, you know you're infected. Your computer is slowing down. You know there's a virus or a worm, right? Or either you're being directed always to a certain website which you're not supposed to go to. You know something is wrong, right? So all these are red flags that you need to keep in view. As students or even as working adults, it's worse. If you're using your laptop and whatnot for your work, if such things do pop up, straight away contact your IT, because they can use that as a gateway back into the main servers of the company, right? So again, there's systems out there, antivirus softwares need to be put in place, but I just want to highlight that if you're planning to go on the dark web, your antivirus will not work. So don't even bother your antivirus and whatever not. So that's why don't ever use laptops, equipment which are being used for work or for study and go on the dark web. Use others if you really want to go and explore, because your antivirus software will not work there. You don't know what malware is on the dark web. Your antivirus software are not updated or patched to be relevant to those malware there, right? So those are some of the tips I can give. Many more, but yeah, I don't think we have time.
Okay, Raymond. Thank you. I'm going to go on to one more question. All right. For Mule accounts, okay, we were talking about Mule accounts. If we have not closed our bank account and not given access to anyone else to use our account, is there a possibility for the bank account to be misused and be framed?
Of course, there is one, because with ID theft, it could happen anytime. The best practice is when you leave, inform the bank. You have to inform the bank that you're leaving the country for a certain amount of time. If you're living for a long time, right? For a certain amount, inform so that they know that any activity there is not done by you. And sometimes your notifications to your phones, right? You know, when transfers are being made, you get notification to your phones. If you are abroad, you might not get those notifications because your number will change. Right? You would use different SIM cards, whatever not. It will be a huge mess if you don't inform the banks that you're leaving the country for quite a number of time, about a large span. Yeah.
So notification is key.
Yeah.
All right. So Raymond, I believe this session has really benefited all of us. There's so much of information that has been kept within this hour, and I really appreciate your time and your effort with us. And I will I'll pass it over to Dawood to do the closing.
Thank you.
Sure.
So with that, we came to the end of our webinar today. I would like to thank you again, Mr. Raymond, for giving your precious time to shed some light on such an important topic. Thanks also to Ms. Mira and our Accounting and Finance Club, along with Mr. Kanan, for organizing this event. Thank you all, and see you in future events. And remember, stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Raymond.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Mira.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dawood. Thank you.